Hi everyone, it's Alice, and I was gonna say we're moving towards the second half of the year. I guess we're already in the second half of the year. Now that we're in it, I know that there are loads of exciting new books coming out in the next couple of months, and I just thought we could have a little chat about them. We're very slowly but surely nearing my favorite part of the year, and I always feel like during the fall months, there are so many cool new books coming out. It might just be because I get very excited during fall, and so I just get excited about everything. But I feel like the fall months are like great for publishing books. I just feel like there's so much new cool stuff coming out. Mostly the ones that I found that I am the most interested in are coming out in August, September, and October. So we're just gonna go through them, starting with the books coming out in August. The first few might have actually already come out by the time this video goes up. I think so. And we're gonna start with A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, which I'm very excited to see because I have read 2 or 3 books by this author now, and I feel like she's already becoming one of my favorite authors. Her books are always so magical, but there's like a sense of humor in them that I really like, and I'm just excited about any book that she has, new or old. I really like the title of this one. It immediately feels magical, and as far as I'm aware, this is like a grim fairy tale retelling. I'm not familiar with the fairy tale. I can't remember what it was, but the story is about this girl who grows up with a little bit of an unusual mother, and her mother like won't let her have any friends or really go out, and her only friend that she's allowed is this white horse. And it seems like there's like a lot of weird stuff going on, like they live in a house that doesn't have doors between rooms. I don't understand what that means or like how that's going to work, but there seems to be some magic there. And then there is a suspicious death in the village where they live, and her mother decides they just need to flee in the middle of the night. So I'm guessing maybe she has something to do with it. I have no idea. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what the story is about when it's this author for me, because I just know that whatever she does, like it's gonna be really, really good and sort of like whimsical. Secondly, we have Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and I just have to say, I love this cover. This kind of cover style, I know not everyone likes it, but this style where there's like a classical painting with this like bold text, there's something about it that I just, whenever I see it, I just immediately want to read that book. Anyways, I'm sure it's not surprising to you that this is a sort of reimagining of Lady Macbeth, who is one of Shakespeare's most famous villainess? I don't know. Either way, it's like a reimagining of the tale of Lady Macbeth, which sounds really interesting. Macbeth is actually the only Shakespeare play that I'm somewhat familiar with, so I think this can be really interesting. I do have another book by this author on my shelves already that I haven't read. Will that stop me from buying this book before I've read that? Probably not, but maybe it should. Then we have Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. And this intrigues me because I read Truly Devious by this author, I think it was this year or last year. And although I took some issue with the ending of that book, or the lack of ending, like I'm still really annoyed at that, I am intrigued to read more of her books. I should probably prioritize reading the sequel to Truly Devious, but this just sounds really interesting. It's also a standalone, so there's no way the same thing can happen to the ending that happened in Truly Devious. If that happens, I'm gonna be enraged. Either way, this one follows a teenager who ends up working as a tour guide in this 1920s house that is built on this island, and while she's there, she uncovers some sort of crime. It sounds intriguing, and I think it's just gonna be like fun but an intriguing mystery. Next, we have Society of Lies by Lauren Ling Brown, and this just immediately pulled me in because it's about a girl who gets murdered on like a campus, and I thought maybe that meant that this has like an academic setting, and it seems like it does. The mystery follows like the sister of the murder victim, who also went to the school but she's not graduated, and her little sister went to the school, and I think she ends up joining a secret society that her sister warned her about not joining. And you know I'm into that, like campus setting or like academic setting and secret societies. I'm into it. Then we have a new book coming out by Elif Shafak, which is called There Are Rivers in the Sky, which is a really good title. And I've read 2 books by Elif Shafak. One of them I didn't love, but I really liked it, and the other one I did love. And I kind of want to read more of her books. This is historical fiction, but it also has like a contemporary setting. It seems to have 2 contemporary settings, actually. So one is set in London in the 1840s. One is set, I think, in Turkey in 2014. And then we have another one that is also set in London in 2018 or 2019 or something. So the 2 contemporary perspectives are quite close together. I don't really know what this book is about. I read something about there being an ancient library, which is cool. And I just really like this author's writing style, so I think I might give this a go. She does have quite a backlog of books that I could also read, so we'll see, but it sounds intriguing. Lastly, for August, we have The Examiner by Janice Hallett, which I'm super excited about. I read 2 books by this author, and this just seems perfect. It's set at a university campus. Again, it has an academic setting, and Janice Hallett writes all of her books as like epistolary novels, so they're all written in correspondence, which I love. Like, I really, really get on with her writing style. The mystery is about this group of 6 college students who all seem to be sort of like troublemakers, and then I'm assuming one of them is murdered, and we figure out what has happened. I don't know any more than that, and I don't really need to. Whatever she publishes, I will probably read. Moving on to September, first up here we have a book that I'm dying to have. Like, I just want to read it right now. It's We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. And as you may know, the Thursday Murder Club is one of my favorite like mystery series, and I've just loved reading that. And now he's moved on to writing another series, which I actually think is quite refreshing. And it sounds very, very good, and I just want it right now. This one is also a mystery, and it follows this retired investigator who does the odd job now and then, but mainly he's just like in his routine, living his life and enjoying it. And he has a daughter-in-law who works in private security. I thought this was going to be about a father and a daughter, but I think it's a father and a daughter-in-law. At least that's what it says. But I'm guessing they solve some sort of murder together. I don't really know. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna read it anyway. Then we have a short story collection that caught my eye. I don't read a lot of short stories, but I really should get back into them. I used to read loads of them. It's Buried Deep by Naomi Novik. And this honestly caught my eye in part because of the cover and in part because I quite like this author. I've read 2 or 3 of her books, and they're very magical and sort of fairy tale-esque, and I like her themes and like her settings, and I think her writing style could work really well in like short story format, so I think this could be cool. I don't know, I find short stories quite difficult because I don't really know if I know what I like when it comes to short stories, but maybe the way to get back into them is to read sort of like fairy tale-esque fantasy ones, because I think I could get really into that. Then we have one that actually a couple of you have mentioned to me. It's Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. And this is a book about a witch, and you know I'm into that. And she seems to be like, I think she's about to turn 30, and she's working in this bookshop, and she's like breaking her back working in this bookshop, and she's also obviously a witch, and she needs to hide her powers from everyone else, and she finds that really exhausting, so she's kind of burnt out. And then her 30th birthday rolls around, and her coven summons her to some sort of thing where she has to prove her witchiness or something. I don't really know. It sounds nice, like a witch working in a bookshop is always fun. Any book about a witch is always fun. And this cover is like, it looks exceedingly cozy. So I think it sounds good. Then we have a new release by ML Rio, which is exciting. It's Graveyard Shift. And this is a novella. It seems to be quite short. And it's about these 5 people who just, I think by the nature of their jobs and in their daily routine, they cross paths every night on like a graveyard. And then, I don't know if they really know each other or not, but one evening they find this hole in the ground that is not supposed to be there, and it's not in a place where a grave should be. And then I'm assuming some shiz happens. I don't really know. Sounds interesting. I quite like this author. I've only read one book by them, but it looks good. The cover also looks really good. Second to last in September, we have a book I know a lot of people are excited about. It's Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. And I am excited about this, but I'm also slightly apprehensive because I read Normal People by Sally Rooney and I loved it. Like, that book was just gut-wrenching. And then I tried to read that other book, not the Conversations with Friends, but the Beautiful something, Beautiful World something. I've tried reading that book like 4 times and I cannot for the life of me get into it. So I'm a little nervous because I don't know if this is going to be for me, but I think maybe the thing to do with this is, like, when it comes out in bookshops, I'll just go to a bookshop and read the first couple of chapters and see if I like it. The story does sound interesting though. It's about 2 brothers who are very different from one another. One is like this hugely successful lawyer who seems to be having like 2 romantic relationships with 2 different women at once, which sounds really stressful. And then his brother is a chess player who's kind of like a loner. And I think the story is about them losing their father and sort of grappling with grief, which does sound really interesting. So I'm hoping this is gonna be one of those Rooney books that I can get really into. Lastly, for this month, we have Odyssey by Stephen Fry, which is the 4th and I think final book in his like Greek myths retelling series. I thought that the 3rd book was going to be the final one, but I guess this one is the final one. I've read all 3 of the ones that are already out and I really enjoy them, so I think this is going to be enjoyable as well. It tells or retells the story of Odysseus. Is that how you say that name? I don't know. But him and his like 10-year long journey home after the fall of Troy. And yeah, I'm sure it's going to be just as enjoyable as those other books. Then we have some cool books coming out in October. I'm so excited for October already. I wish it was already here. But whatever, we have some exciting books to look forward to. The first one is The Bog Wife, which I'm not gonna lie, the cover of this is what drew me in. Firstly, I think it's so beautiful. And then I read that it was like an atmospheric gothic, and I was like, sounds great. It sounds super weird. It's about this family who for generations have lived and worked at this like cranberry bog thing, and every like generation has to sacrifice their patriarch to the bog, and the bog will give them a woman, like a bog wife, who's supposed to carry on the family line. That sounds insane, but really cool. And I think what happens is that the brothers in the generation that we're following, they do this, and then the bog doesn't give them a wife or like a woman, and that's obviously an issue. Sounds a little absurd, but I think it could be good. Next, we have A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallis Kinney, and I'm sure you can see why this one intrigued me. I saw this and I was like, pumpkins? Yeah. A book? Yes. That sounds, or looks, perfect. I have looked into it a little bit now though. It is a book about a witch, and you know that's perfect. It's about a hedge witch who spends all of her time living at this secluded cottage, and her only company is this black cat. And she just spends her days like foraging, gardening, and she doesn't talk to anyone. Honestly, she's basically living my dream life. But then she has to go to this like gathering of her coven, and I think when she's there, she discovers this terrible secret. I don't know. Sounds great. And I'm so grateful that this author has just written a book that's perfect for me and also put this cover on it. Like, you just made it for me. That's so nice. We also have a graphic novel on the horizon, which I'm really looking forward to. It's The Firelight Apprentice by Bree Paulsen. And you may know that Bree Paulsen has written and illustrated some of my favorite graphic novels, the Garlic like duology. I love those books, so I'm really excited to see that she's coming out with something else. This is about these 2 sisters who live in a city powered by magic, and I think the youngest sister is like coming into her powers, and the older sister is like, I should send her away to be trained, but then she doesn't want to do that because I think she has to send her to the king or something. But then a traveling troupe of like magicians come by and they decide to take her on as an apprentice. I don't really know. It sounds lovely. I love Bree Paulsen's like illustration style and her like color palette. Oh, I think this is gonna be so good. Then we have one where the title just sounds really intriguing. It's The Treasure Hunters Club by Tom Ryan. And this is set in this idyllic seaside town where it's like famous for having this like buried pirate treasure or something that I'm assuming no one has found. But the locals of this village know that there is more buried in the sand than treasure. What that means, I don't know, but it sounds interesting. And I think the story follows three strangers who come together to. I don't actually know why they come together. Maybe they come together to find the treasure. I have no idea. But people start dying. Maybe they end up solving the mystery. Honestly, I don't really know. I read Pirate Treasure and like an idyllic seaside town, and I was like, yeah, sounds great. I also just really like the title of this. I think it could be fun. Then at the very end, I found one book that I'm excited about that's coming out in November. I feel like publishing really slows down in November and December, but maybe I just didn't find that many books. Maybe it's a little early. I don't know. And this is actually a sequel to a book that I haven't read yet. So I don't know why I'm excited about it because I don't know if I like the first book, but I just feel like I'm going to. It's called What the Library Hides by Isabel Ibañez, and the first book is What the River Knows. And the thing that makes me really excited about this is that it's an adult adventure series, and those are so hard to find. So it's just exciting to see like a series being made that's like this. There are a couple that are like going on right now, which I'm very excited about. I'm excited to see like adventure sort of come back a little bit in a way. I'm sure there are loads of adventure books that I haven't found, but I just feel like adventure books that are not full on fantasy, like that's what I like to read, and this is one of those series. I don't know. I'm excited about the sequel. Hopefully I'll like the first book. That was the last book though. Those were all of the books on my very long list of anticipated releases. Now I'd love to know if you know of any other books that are coming out that you're really excited about. I would love to hear about it, especially if they're like fall, autumn, sort of spooky related. I'd love to hear about that. Or if you're just excited about some of the books that I mentioned and would like to read them, I'd like to hear about that as well. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!